Throughout that talk, this idea of black people controlling the production part, the distribution part, or the selling part, and again, he never gets to like the I guess the main contradiction in that. But for a second, I said, okay, let's look into this Lonnie Johnson um, example, right? And he says something about if he came back to the black community and build infrastructure. But after Lonnie gets out of school, who in the black community or what community can offer Lonnie what the U.S. Air Force or NASA is going to offer him to pay him to even build whatever infrastructure in the community? And the reason why Lonnie has money and has time to develop some super soaker is because he's also helping develop the stealth bomber, which is going to destroy lives, black and brown lives in Panama and other places. And so it's not like Lonnie is just, isolated someone. He's literally doing something to help further white terrorism, right? U.S. terrorism, getting kickback from that to start his own thing. But even when he develops a super soaker, he doesn't sell it. He doesn't, make majority of the money of it because he literally was in a lawsuit with the company, Hasbro, for them not paying him enough, not paying him the royalties. So in order for him to actually even get the gun off the market or onto the market, he gonna have to partner up with the actual capitalists, the people who got the money. So his argument about bringing his talents or something back to the community is like, what infrastructure he gonna build with what money on what platform, doing exactly what? He's gonna build a stealth bomber for black people to use, or
So he worked on a variety of projects, including Air Force Missions Lab, developing nuclear power for Galileo mission and Jupiter, several weapons-related projects, as well as the engineer for the Mariner Mark II spacecraft, Comet Rendezvous, Saturn Orbiter Probe missions. He also worked on the stealth bomber program. So, yeah, to your point, I mean, he's to my knowledge, there isn't a black owned and certainly directed for the benefit of black people manufacturing process plant resources where they would be able to fund his research into the development of any technology, weapons related or not. So,
and there's another thing. We are under oppression seeking liberation. They are oppressors seeking expansion and permanence. So even if you have genius, we need different shit. We should have different goals, which require different priorities and different skills and different orientations. So a lot of these people who go off to these Ivy League institutions or work within, these established industries, they don't have skills that are really necessary because, Harvard and MIT, and they're not educating or training people for liberatory skills. So just because you have a very high level skill or have a high level of knowledge doesn't mean that you have liberatory skills and knowledge. He was trained in oppression and accumulation. He was trained in his skills and his ideas and his mentality goes towards maintaining status quo and accumulating within that status quo. So yeah, I think that we are flawed in our thinking if we think just any black person with a certain set of skills, abilities, or a certain amount of resources is automatically an asset to us, because we need different shit than them. But another thing in the integrationist mindset is we want no more. It's what Adam Clayton Powell said. We want no more than you have, and we'll accept no less than you have. Which I respect Adam Clayton Powell, but that's one of the most frightening quotes coming from a major figure in our community. To look at white people and say, we want no more than you have and we'll accept no less than you have, is where most of our great men of big affairs, as Garvey called them, our men of big affairs, that's where they start and stop, in this very limited box called the systems and institutions of white hegemony and capitalism. And if no matter how well you do in that box, you're still in the motherfucking box. And that box is wrapped up in going over Niagara Falls. It's doomed.
I still want to play my. I want to play my shout out though.
Yeah. Get your shout out in there, man.
I want to get my shout out in there. You try to skip past that real
My
quick.
bad, dog. You know, you got all the praise. My
Appreciate
bad.
that. I don't appreciate that.
Further, you go into any one of those stores, any corner store in your hood, social study, pick any product out of the 200 to 300 products in the corner store. How many of them are produced by people that look like you? How many are produced, manufactured, or distributed by people that live in that community or look like the people that live in that community? We used to call them mom and pop stores, but the people that own the stores don't look like my mom and pop anymore, right? So what happens is the resource of buying power is extracted out the community at the point of purchase. You know, we hear a lot of, whether it's real or imagined, $1.2 trillion in collective buying power. That leaves the community at the point of purchase because every time we buy something, it's leaving the community because we don't produce the products that we consume. So in these stores, when you purchase these products, with exceptions to Rap Snacks, how many other products are black owned?
So that was it.
Shout out to Jab for inspiring them rappers to do right. Yo,
No,
so
for that, whether it's real or imagined.
I mean, he gave you a little
That
stab.
was
I mean,
the line. No, I'm
that's
not mad
actually
at that.
but that's better than Killer Mike shit on Breakfast Club, though. I mean,
No,
you
he's
got
not
shit on
talking.
there.
I don't mind. Yeah, he's not, talking trash. But real quick though, what is also impressive to me about that, what I think we learned talking to Nkechi Taifa is that you got to do all that TED Talk from memory. I didn't know that.
Oh yeah.
There's no prompter. There's no teleprompter.
Wait.
No. Why it's like
No.
that?
I'm
Wise
sure
coming off
Wise
the
can come off the
dome?
dome, but apparently these presentations are from memory. That's what she said.
Well, I think it depends on the school because some schools got that monitor on the front of the camera because the one we was trying to do in
okay.
Myrtle Beach, they got
I've
the little
seen the
monitor.
teleprompter. I've seen when they pan the camera, there's like a teleprompter.
Oh,
Yeah, at
well,
the front
maybe
of the
they
stage.
just
Yeah,
maybe
yeah.
they just ran her, they gaffled her a little bit.
But
My
that
bad.
ain't
I
nothing.
thought-
Why it's been coming off the dome since what, 89, 87?
I'm saying though, I'm just saying you remembering all those, but I've also seen MCs forget their own lyrics while they're performing on stage. So I'm just saying it's
Who?
impressive.
Who?
Specifically Talib Kweli at a Black August event. I saw him forget his own lyrics, but
I mean, lyrics seem easier
So they
because
just hold the mic out to the crowd when
of
that
song
happens.
and teaching. Yeah.
They do this shit.
So, but listen. So speaking of rappers, he teamed up with Honcho or Quavo, and so I think even in these rooms of celebration, real quick though.
Before we move on, there's a point he made that I think I have to speak to because I hear a lot.
Okay.
In terms of we don't produce the goods in our communities.
Yeah.
White people don't produce the goods in their communities either. Production evolves. Capitalism seeks out the cheapest labor source and the most and the loosest environmental standards. So it did go from where the average person did live in the neighborhood where their shit was made, like you would live in a polluted, squalid neighborhood, and there would be a garment shop up the street, and there would be a canning factory just here on the south side of Chicago. We have literally polluted sites that used to have lead and cadmium and shit in the soil in people where children playgrounds and shit. Because I was trying to do these community garden projects, and everywhere we go and we sample the soil. So Chicago used to be a major production industrial hub. And then when they came with unions, minimum wage laws, and environmental standards, production moved overseas. And it went from white girls in sweatshops and children working in set shops and children in coal mines in the early industrial revolution. And they go overseas and overseas sweatshops. And then you go from overseas sweatshops to robots making shit. And I'll tell you, the robots do all the manufacturing. Go to the robot communities. I think this notion that we have to bring production back, because that's what Trump promised. We got to bring production back to America. We need to bring production back to our community. Under capitalism, that's not a good thing. And if you go to the places where shit is actually made, whether it is our clothing, our electronics, our glasses, if you actually go to those places where your coal, where your oil that fuels your car come from, If you go down to Mexico to the maquiladoras, you'll see production places where people who live where shit is produced aren't in the best condition economically or physically. So I'm not
Chinese
saying
must
that
be
we shouldn't
chilling.
have
Everything
control.
I got is made in China.
Right. But look at China's ecosystem. Look at China's ecosystems. And so I'm just saying, I understand what he's pushing in terms of we do need to control our production, not necessarily saying make our own shit, but we do need to have things produced and distributed. It's more about the ideology, the principles, the values, and the policies and the regulation that govern production, redistribution, and leveling, not even distribution and redistribution. It's more important to control the policies that govern production and distribution than it is to have physical hold on the actual production. The means of production in this day, the means of production are intellectual IP, intellectual property, and governmental oversight are as much means of production as having, like, in what you call this time, controlling or owning a loom. I think we just need to reassess that and update that. That's all. I'm not saying he's wrong. I'm just saying it's got to be radicalized and updated.
So Jared, before I ask you this question, go to that Instagram clip right quick. So, and again, I think when things are presented as something to celebrate, so him and Honcho or Quavo come together in a partnership, and we could play the little clip, but the partnership is always interesting because all black people working together. But then the question is, well, what is the partnership? What in particular is the partnership? So the partnership is literally, so Honcho has a football team, a little 7-on-7 elite talent, and Rap Snacks pretty much sponsor the jersey. So now they have Rap Snacks and whatever Honcho's team name is on the jersey. And again, this idea of spreading unity, message for change, and all this other stuff, and just like a bunch of words that don't really mean something, but it's coded in a way to where if you respond to it, you will be, negative or trying to disperse unity. But more to Diallo's point, what do you think about Wise's analogy or how he talks about, well, we're not under resourced, even as he talked about, we're more athletes, we're black athletes, and we make up the NBA and NFL, so we're not under resourced. What do you think about how he shapes that versus how he also used the buying power? I
get it. When I was listening to it, I get what he's doing, and I appreciate the point that he's trying to make a more affirmative, agency inspired point. But but similar to what Diallo was saying, the resources that are extracted and the resources in terms of goods, services, and benefits that are extracted are produced as part of a process in which exploited black communities play just one part. So, and that's the part that I think we should be focused on in terms, again, of Diallo's point around public policy. We're all contributing to parts of the process that produce the $150 trillion in personal wealth, private wealth in this country, the 400 trillion private wealth around the world. So whether that is us buying a product that has been produced in China, physically made in China, and transported here, marketed and sold in stores here, that process, whether the person is in China or the consumer is here in Black America, that process is producing wealth, and we're not getting almost any of that wealth. So, and reason I'm struggling is because I get what he's saying, but the resources that he's talking about, he seems to want to say that if we somehow controlled internally all of those processes to conclude in the 14% that we represent in the population ending up with us, it just leaves out how all of this works and how capitalism works and how the labor force has been internationalized and is exploited internationally. So that's why I think, again, the issue needs to be focused on how does capitalism work? Where does wealth end up once it's created as a result of that process? And then that wealth, how is that wealth distributed or not?
Maybe he's well-meaning and maybe he's not connecting the dots, but I think at one point he literally talks about how public policy is literally stopping all these things from moving in a certain type of way. But then he go right back to saying, well, the process. So he said, we got one one store or distributor who has our wrap snacks in Kentucky. And out of all I don't remember how many sets, 100 stores that it distributes to, none or one of them are black. And it's like, I don't know that he actually understands what he's saying, as opposed to, I don't know if he understands what he's saying when he talks about the public policy preventing all of those processes, but then going right back to saying, we just need to dominate.
Well, that's why I think it sounds like, especially in presented to a TED Talk audience, it sounds again like where the business community wants public policy is at the level of government protection of their businesses. Right. So whether it's tariffs and trade, whether it's regulations, whether it's permits, whether it's whatever. So that sounds like to me what this is akin to in terms of advocacy, where the corporate community is just saying, create the policy that allows my business to thrive, and then government get out of the way and let us do what we do.
That's the Candace Owens way.
Yeah, that's where it all falls down, as Kanye famously said.